folks, welcome to the old workshop. Glad you could join me here today. Today I want to talk about something a little different. I'm going to show you how to make stuff like this out of common household plastic containers, shampoo bottles, cottage cheese containers, yogurt, dish soap, laundry soap. The most important thing when you're collecting these containers is to make sure that the only ones you use have this number 2 recycle symbol on it. Sometimes underneath it says HDPE, high density polyethylene. Make absolutely sure the only ones you collect are the ones with the number 2 recycle, because the other plastics give off fumes when you melt them. So get yourself a bunch of these, wash them off really well, and dry them out. Sometimes on bottles like this, shampoo bottles, they'll have a clear transparent label stuck on, so you got to peel that off and clean the sticky gum off with Goo Gone is a good product. It'll lift that sticky stuff right off. So once they're clean and washed and dried, you start cutting them up into strips. And here's a example of strips that I've been cutting up. Got all sorts of different colors in there. I like doing kind of long shaped strips, but you don't have to if you don't want to. You can make little square ones. I like long ones because I get a nice streaky long streaks in the sheet that I make. You're also going to need to make yourself a form. Here's mine. It's nothing fancy, just a bunch of scrap wood for making these sheets. It's about 8 inches long, 4 inches wide, and I make these sheets around 1/8 of an inch thick. So you make yourself a form out of scrap wood and make yourself a lid that fits into it too, because you need to apply some pressure onto it as it's cooling off. You take your form and you get yourself some parchment paper from your grocery store. It's in the baking section. It's used for lining cookie sheets. And you line the inside of your form and cut another chunk for the top for your lid for your form too, so the plastic doesn't stick to it. Okay, once you get that ready, get your toaster oven set up, and in your tray, line your tray with parchment paper too, and throw a bunch of these plastic strips that you've cut up onto your tray and stick it into your oven. Turn your oven on to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Good temperature. And leave it in there for, well, it depends on how much plastic you want to melt. I know that to make a 1/8 inch sheet that's 4 by 8 inches long in here, I need to have 85 grams of plastic. And I figured that out trial and error, so I measure it out now and stick it in, and it works great. But you can fool around with it. Put it in, leave it in there for 15-20 minutes, and you'll see it start to sink and turn really gooey and gummy. It doesn't melt into a liquid. It just stays like a big gooey gumball. So as soon as you pull it out, you quickly whip it over and pour it into your mold. Put your parchment paper on top and then start clamping. Put clamps around your mold to start flattening it out. And the stuff, once you melt it in your toaster oven, the stuff expands. So you want to get all the air bubbles out of it, and as it cools it shrinks. So every 10 minutes you come and tighten up the clamps on top of your form for about an hour or so. The stuff stays hot for about an hour. Tighten it down really well. And if you're lucky enough, you'll get a nice sheet like that. And you might very well ask, well, what on earth do you do with this stuff? Well, I use mine, my little sheets, to make these little inlays on my license plate guitars. Here's an example right here. I do believe this came from, yeah, this sheet right here. And this looks a bit ugly, but once you start sanding it with finer and finer grits and polish it off, it turns a beautiful color, and it's very there's no scratches in it at all. It looks pretty good. I also inlaid some into my armrest. Here's another example. This is a kind of a green, yeah, I think it's this guy here. There's some in the peg head. Came from that sheet there. This was Barb loves Hershey's chocolate syrup, so there's streaks of brown plastic in there, and the yellow is probably liquid detergent. There's a bit of white milk bottles, cottage cheese. And here's a matching armrest that I made for it. Folks, I forgot to mention that you need to get yourself some good gloves or mitts to protect your hands when you're working with that hot plastic. It is wickedly hot, and it'll leave a permanent scar if you get a drop of it on you, so be careful. Yeah, get yourself some oven mitts or good gloves, and then work with it as you pull it out of the oven. Here's a little ukulele neck that I'm working on right now, and I cut a circle out of the blue sheet that I made, inlaid it, and then I cut out a little caribou out of wood and put it inside the blue sheet. Put a little star. I also used it on this mandolin that I made. I inlaid a little star into the tailpiece, and the caribou on the pick guard, and another one up. Oh, the star here. Here's what it looks like with just wood, so I kind of like this stuff. You can also make different forms. You don't have to have rectangles. You can, whatever you desire, you can make round ones, diamond shaped, you name it. Anyway, that's what I do with common household plastics lying around. Try and use them up. So I hope you enjoyed listening and watching this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.